In an age of fake news and alternative facts, the traditional role of media as the gatekeepers of democracy is increasingly in jeopardy. A two-day conference dubbed Journalism Under Siege brought together hundreds of people from across the globe to Israel to discuss the most pressing challenges facing the industry and the mechanisms that might be devised in order to overcome them. Journalists are indeed facing great trials in an ever-changing milieu in which news is often produced in 280 characters and disseminated across the world at the touch of a button. Many believe this has led to an erosion in public trust in the media, with a recent survey showing that Americans are more concerned with made-up news than with issues such as racism and terrorism.
Back in the day, when we watched Walter Cronkite, he said something and we, as the viewers, believed every word. We didn't doubt him, and today our end users are doubting the source, the core source, even on the increasingly rare occasions when full attribution is given. It's a crisis, no doubt.
Our role is not to present the views of the government, and it's not necessarily to praise or criticize the government. Our role really is to report as thoroughly as we can, as honestly as we can, and as fairly as we can.
One workshop focused on the growing need for fact-checking in order to separate truth from fiction amid masses of information.
Have you ever felt pressure to toe the line of the New York Times given its left-leaning nature, for example? How can we trust that a given fact checker is objective?
That's a great question. So this is the part where I was talking about showing your work, right? I don't expect all the readers to agree with my conclusions, but I show my work. So you can read any fact check that I write, and you can see where I've cited my sources and who I'm talking to, and if there's something that I left out, you're welcome to write to me and say you made a mistake, and if that information isn't correct, I'm happy to correct it, but I've never felt any pressure from my editors to do anything.
Uri Dromi, Director General of the Jerusalem Press Club, which organized the event, emphasized that journalists are facing significant challenges.
In many countries, journalists are personally persecuted, murdered, thrown to jail. But then there's an attack on the media coming from heads of state. There's this trend of undermining the freedom of the press, which, by the way, will lead to undermining of democracy.
Another topic of the conference was overcoming such obstacles in order to restore people's faith in the news industry.
Today, most journalists don't separate opinion from facts, which I think is a big mistake. And journalists have to put aside their ego and really remember their professional ethics of telling facts and allowing the audiences to interpret them.
Perhaps the central theme of the event was that as civilians everywhere increasingly embrace populist forms of government, if not outright authoritarianism, it is becoming more difficult for journalists to operate independently. Accordingly, if reporters are to continue fulfilling their historical function, they will require new methods based on innovative technologies that enable them to circumvent barriers and get the story right. From Jerusalem, I'm Charles Biblazer reporting for the Media Line.